Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. We have a brand new golf ball to review and test today. This is brand new from Bridgestone for the 2023 season. Of course, we've already reviewed the E6, we reviewed the E12, we reviewed all of their tour lines. Well, now they've come out with the E9. I hadn't even heard of this. It kind of flew under my radar, but I did have someone comment on a video not too long ago and say, hey, Bridgestone just came out with a new ball, you ought to review it. And so as soon as I was able to get my hands on one, I went ahead and did. And we're gonna put it to the test today and see how it ranks in the Bridgestone line. All right, so before we even get started here, there is a couple of things that kind of worry me. The first one is that Bridgestone balls are kind of hit or miss. The E6 was pretty good, the E12 was horrific. Their tour line balls were hit and miss depending on what your swing speed is and depending on what you're looking for. They offer a good variety. There's always great durability, but it's still kind of shaky when it comes to the performance and feel sometimes. The E9 actually fits right in between the E12 and E6, and what this golf ball is specifically designed for is to be a long drive distance straight golf ball. It was actually developed with the World Long Drive Committee. Bridgestone apparently spent a bunch of money with them and going in and doing a bunch of scientific research, yada yada yada, to get a golf ball that goes extremely long and extremely straight. So we're going to put that to the test as well. But the second thing that also concerns me is this golf ball comes in at a $29.99 price point for a two-piece golf ball. And I'll be really honest with you, that's the most expensive two-piece golf ball I've tested on my channel so far. I think before that it might have been $24.99 or maybe $22.99, but that's a huge jump. When you get into the $29.99 price range, you're talking about value tour balls. The Cut DC, the Vice Tour is only 26 or 27 or something like that. Q-Star Tour is $32.99. Like, you're getting into a really high price point. So I do expect a lot from this golf ball. It's going to have to do what it's setting out to do because of that price point for sure. Let's start off with the design of the golf ball. Of course, you have Bridgestone's big B logo, which anyone will recognize if you've ever had to put tires on your car, because you've probably seen that at that point too. So just a basic logo there with a number next to it. Then if you come over to the side, you look at the alignment tool. One thing I like about the dimple pattern is they did not go with what the E12 had. The E12 had this really weird dimple pattern that looks cool at first, but after you've seen it for a couple days, you realize it's kind of silly actually, and I don't really care for it as much. I mean, it is unique, but good dimple pattern here. It looks like a two-piece golf ball. This is what dimple patterns look like when they're designed to be going more straighter, get the ball up in the air a little bit more. So we will see that as well. But if we go look at the alignment tool on the side, it's not bad. It's not great either, to be honest with you. Bridgestone has never been one to have a great alignment tool, but it is better than the old E6 one, and it's better than some of the stuff they've had. But it's still like a 2.5 or a 3 out of 5 on that. Not a great alignment tool. It's so small. I really can't, you can see there, like if you're over the top, it's really hard to see. I don't think it's actually gonna help a lot of people sink putts. So overall, design-wise, it does feel okay. I mean, it's definitely not a urethane ball. So, I mean, it's definitely more designed for maybe a little bit more spring, a little bit more distance, as well as a little bit more durability. So I think it is aimed at a more intermediate to beginner phase for golfers based on the looks, but it's okay. So let's get out to the chipping and putting green and let's see what we got there. All right, so let's start with the putter real quick on the Bridgestone E9. Gotta be honest with you, it feels pretty good. It actually feels really soft. It does not take a lot to get this golf ball to go. I hit past the hole so many times when I first was trying it out. There's a lot of spring in it. Some people like that, some people don't. It's good for beginners, but it's definitely a learning curve when you have to relearn your putts, because if you just barely tap this thing, it's gonna go across the green. A lot of spring to it. If you hit it off the toe, if you mishit it, there's not a lot of difference in feel, so there isn't much feedback there, which I didn't like, because I want to know if I don't exactly hit it right on my putter. Wasn't really great there, but overall still was able to eventually get it down, and then I do like the feel. It came off really well. I had a true roll. It was fine, but there was just that learning curve at the beginning. So be wary if you don't like it to come out hot, because it will come out hot. Just as I thought before, the alignment tool does not help you much. I'll be honest with you. I tried to use it a couple times, but it's just so thin and it's so small. It's not a lot there, to be honest with you. Now with the wedge, on the other hand, I hope you're not expecting it to spin a lot, because it's not going to. It's just not. There isn't any checkup. I tried multiple times to get some checkup out of this ball around the green, and there's none to be had. It does have a nice steady release though, so it's not all bad, but it's going to take a learning curve again. You're going to have to hit way sooner than you thought on the green. That way it's going to roll, because it does roll forever. There's not an ounce of spin in this thing. It's very low, which I get. That's kind of the whole point. That's what they're going for. But around the green, it's always nice to have even just a tiny bit, you know, if you want to do something with it. But I mean, even when I was opening the face and hitting nasty cuts, I couldn't get it to go right. I couldn't get it to go left. I mean, I couldn't get it to do anything other than release hard straight, which is good for beginners. But for anyone above that, it's kind of frustrating sometimes, especially if you need to hit one of those shots. As far as feel goes with the wedge, though, I will say that, again, it does feel really good. A lot of sponge effect. It doesn't take much. Again, chipping multiple balls past the hole immediately, had to kind of dial it down, and there was a learning curve there, so it's going to come off hot. Again, it feels really soft, and if you hit it off the toe, it feels a little tiny bit firmer, but there ain't much there. It's designed to feel the same no matter where you hit it. Alrighty, so real quick before we dive into these numbers, I do want to talk about the feel a little bit. This definitely has the Bridgestone feel. If you don't know what that is, basically if you've ever hit a Bridgestone ball, it's got a very unique feel to it. It's like half firm, half dead, but then half sponge and springy. It's really weird. It's almost like when you hit it, the first part of it comes off the club really well, but then when you're actually watching the follow through, it feels dead. It's a really weird thing, but all the Bridgestone golf balls pretty much have that type of feel. This one's the same. It's not a bad feel though. Actually, it feels pretty soft for the most part. I would definitely say it sides on the more soft part than it does on firm for sure. If you hit it off the toe, it does add a little bit of a firm press to let you know, so there's a good amount of feedback there, but Bridgestone always does good at that, so it's not surprising. But overall, really good feel. More toward the softer side, which again, it's toward the intermediate, toward the beginners. I imagine it's designed to get up in the air a little bit more, so it's going to compress a little bit better. Let's dive into these numbers now. Let's see what we got. Hopefully some good stuff. Let's start with the 9-iron, 90.3 on your ball mile per hour speed. That is a little low. 124.2, that's just a tad low, about 2 yards lost. 117.2, again, about 2.5 yards lost from my average. So overall, and then a 19.2, so that's a low launch. So it actually launched really low, which was surprising. I thought based on the type of ball it was going to launch really high. It didn't. It launched really low, and that could be why I lost a couple of yards, but I actually lost 2 miles an hour of ball speed. So to only lose 2 yards while losing 2 miles an hour, that's pretty good. So I imagine if I could get the ball up in the air a little bit more, I wouldn't lose any distance. So not good, not bad either. It's kind of workable. So let's dive into the 7. Let's see if it's any better there. All right, and getting into the 7-iron, 6,251 spin. Not bad. That's slightly below my average, but you'll still be able to stick a green with it, no problem whatsoever. 107.7 is pretty decent. That's just slightly above average. 161.6, that's awesome. 150.4. Great numbers there, and then a 17.9 launch, so a really low launch compared to what my average, well, I mean, a little bit lower than what I normally get, but the distance was right there. And I'll tell you one thing I really loved when I got into the 7-iron, this was one of the most consistent golf balls I had hit. I hit 10 shots, they all went 150, carry, 161, whatever the numbers were, and I didn't even have to touch it. That's very rare. Most of the time I hit 10 shots and I'll take the 2 or 3 mishits I have and get rid of them to kind of give a better average. That wasn't the case here. I hit 10 golf balls. Maybe I struck them all pure, I don't know, but it was 150 yards every time. The difference between like my lowest yard and my most yards was literally like half a yard. I mean, it was really consistent, really forgiving. I loved that about it. It's something I haven't seen a lot from Bridgestone, to be honest with you. And this golf ball did it extremely well. I mean, I had full confidence by shot 7, 8 that I was just gonna be able to rip them and get 150 every single time. So really good there. Let's hope that continues going into the 5 hybrid. So this is 4,097 spin, which is right in line with my average. 115.8, so I lost a little bit of ball mile per hour speed. Lost about 1.5 yards on the distance there, 190.7, 176. Again, lost about a yard, no big deal there. And then it launched 14.6, so it actually had a really good launch with the hybrid. Sometimes hybrids, I get a really low launch for some reason. Not the case there. This one did launch high with the hybrid. It spins enough to stick a green, and I still pretty much got all the distance out. So that's a really good number. I'm perfectly happy with that. But this is gonna be the telling story, is this next one here, which again is gonna be the driver. Does this golf ball go really long, and does it go really straight? Well, let's find out. Driver carry, we are looking at, or driver spin, excuse me, we're looking at 2,672, 241.7 on your distance, which is slightly below average, 135.5, which is actually slightly above my average, 221.6, which is just slightly below my average, and then a 13.4, and I'll be honest with you, I had a lot of trouble getting this golf ball up in the air with my driver. It wanted to launch low. I mean, eventually I had to kind of use a neutral or weak grip, open the face up and try to really hit up on it, and then I could get it to 15, 16 on the launch angle, but most of the time that's my normal. So this golf ball really wanted to launch low. Maybe that's kind of to help it design go a little bit straighter, maybe keep it out of the wind a little bit, but I didn't like it because ultimately I loved the ball mile per hour speed, but I lost distance because I just wasn't getting the ball up in the air enough. So if I was to play this golf ball on the course, I would have to find a way to really get it up in the air, otherwise I would just be losing distance and it wouldn't matter. All right, so before I get into what all these numbers mean in my conclusion, we're gonna dive into two things. Real quick, normally we go into durability, but real quick, I'm gonna hit a couple of these and see how straight they really are. Okay, so just gonna hit some punch shots real quick just to kind of see if, you know, how it does. And the first one here, I tried to put a nice little hook on, or maybe even a draw, and that ball went straight as an arrow. I mean, so second time here, we're gonna try, you know, a slice, really try to just put the slice on it. As you can see, it popped up and went right, but boy, there is not an ounce of slice to that golf ball. Coming back again, I just try to really put a hook or a draw or something on it here. And I mean, it's just straight every single time. Yeah, you know, depending on where you have the face is where the ball goes. So I will give it that. It is the straightest golf ball I've ever hit. It's almost impossible to put any spin on this golf ball whatsoever. You can't get it to go left, you can't get it to go right. If you have to bend around a tree, I imagine it's gonna be very difficult. Okay, so let's get into durability real quick before we wrap up. Bridgestone always has really good durability, and by looking at this golf ball, I mean, it does have some scuffs. You can definitely feel the scuffs. It's like a 3.5 or a 4 out of 5, which is a little disappointing because Bridgestone usually has that knocked out of the park, but it isn't bad. I mean, that's after 50 shots. It's after putting around, chipping around the green with it. You're gonna be able to get through a round with it probably, but I would say a round is probably gonna be the max. If you haven't lost it by then, it's pretty much gonna be on its last leg. So just okay there. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up here. What are my thoughts? You know, for Bridgestone loyalists, it does feel good. I mean, it's not a bad golf ball. I mean, there are areas in it where it really performs well. It does what it's supposed to do. I know it's designed for ball speed. There was plenty of ball speed to have. But unfortunately, some of the numbers were a little inconsistent. Forgiveness was great. Consistency as far as yardage was great, but as far as how the golf ball traveled with different clubs, it was a little inconsistent. And I gotta be honest with you, I wasn't thrilled with the durability, especially for the price point. And I think that's where my general conclusion is going to come to, is that price point. One of the biggest things in my channel is value, and at $29.99 for a two-piece golf ball, there's not much value to be had. I mean, there are so many other golf balls you could get for an average swinger. You know, I swing the club 93 mile an hour, the driver. There's so many other golf balls you could buy in this price range that are going to give you a three-piece lay, or they're going to allow you to work the ball. If you're someone young, or you're someone who's new to the game and you need a nice two-piece golf ball that, you know, you're losing a lot of them, I can't imagine anyone wanting to spend $29.99 on a dozen of golf balls to get it to go long and straight. I mean, to be fair, if you're good enough to where you're not losing golf balls on the course anyway, you're probably at least decent enough to kind of bend it a little bit. So I'm not sure the market's there. I'm not sure that it hits what it's intended. Maybe it's kind of like the Top Flight Bomb. That's kind of what I had a problem with it. I didn't know who the market was for. I was like, you know, okay, yeah, you can hit bombs with it, but what do you do for the rest of the hits? You know, what do you do on your approach shots? What do you do on... And so overall, some good, some bad. It's okay, but really for $29.99, I would have a hard time recommending it to anybody because there's just so many golf balls out there that have performed really, really well and been a fraction of the cost, and that ultimately is what's going to do it. So, guys, as always, keep watching, to keep saving, keep learning. I appreciate it as always. Until next time.